Thank you, Chairwoman Eshi, for holding this very important hearing on how we make prescription drugs more affordable. There is a celebrity here in the audience, probably the most famous, the top consumer advocate from the state of Florida, Jack McCray, who works for the AARP, is in the audience. Jack, thank you very much for being here. He's worked on these issues for years and years, and I'm grateful that this committee is finally, we have in our sights some terrific legislation to finally take on Big Pharma and to do everything we can to lower prescription drug prices. Dr. Fowler, your written remarks where you say what the drug companies really think is pay us or you will die. Well, hopefully we pass these bills out and those days will be over. And I also want to compliment my colleague and friend Peter Welch, who has worked for many, many years on negotiating drug prices through Medicare. I have been allied with Representative Welch for many years, and Peter, I appreciate your leadership on this. Let's get into the details a little bit on this. Under current law, the Secretary of HHS is prohibited from interfering with the negotiations between drug manufacturers and pharmacies and prescription drug plan sponsors. That's kind of un-American, isn't it? We just say you can't negotiate. This clause is often referred to as the non-interference clause of the Medicare Part D statute. It was enacted in 2003 at the time that Medicare Part D was approved. Since the implementation of the Medicare Part D program, Medicare spending for Part D has increased from $46 billion in 2007 to about $80 billion in 2017 for an average annual growth of 5.6%. Additionally, the Congressional Budget Office has determined that for Part D beneficiaries, our neighbors who take brand name specialty drugs, the average annual net spending on such drugs tripled from 2010 to 2015. All of the four bills before us here would address this in different ways. Dr. Anderson, can you explain what this non-interference clause is? Is that a fair name anyway? And what implications do this provision in law currently have on the Secretary?
So the non-interference clause means that you can't interfere between the negotiation between the PDP and the drug company. So that's the negotiation that can take place between the PDP and the drug company, but Medicare can't do it. You mentioned all those increases. Where the increases are occurring is in high-cost specialty drugs. And that's where the Medicare program, which is paying right now 80% of the cost, has no ability to negotiate, no seat at the table to do anything about those prices. So where we're seeing the most of the increases is where Medicare cannot negotiate.
Why was that even included back then?
Well, in the past, they thought that the drug companies and the pharmacy benefit managers would be able to negotiate prices, and they were. And as I said in my testimony, for many drugs, they are able to negotiate prices. But what's happened over the last 16 years since the legislation has passed is we've seen a growth in the number of these very expensive, high-cost drugs.
And that's not helping beneficiaries, is it?
Well, some of the drugs are very beneficial. They cure diseases, they treat diseases. They are, in fact, very important. But if you can't afford them, then you can't take them. And what's interesting about Dr. Fowler's example is if he's insured privately, he's probably got very good insurance. Unfortunately, if he has Medicare, he doesn't have an out-of-pocket cap, and as he says, he's going to pay $12,000, whereas when he was insured by his university, he paid virtually nothing.
So are you saying that we shouldn't tie the hands of the federal government to negotiate prices? If we really want to put beneficiaries and our neighbors front and center, you would address this non-interference clause and allow negotiation.
You would need to do it because this is where it's for a small subset of drugs where there's no competition, and Medicare right now is paying 80% of the cost. That's where the growth is occurring.
And would you agree that negotiation is a market-based tool?
You can make it a market-based tool, correct?
Okay, I agree. And what impact do you think this would have on the average Medicare beneficiary's pocketbook?
So
Oh, excuse me, my time has expired. I'm very passionate about this, and I thank you for your testimony.